Today is Wednesday, May 7th, 2003, and this is the beginning of an interview with Jack Marshall at Marion High School. Mr. Marshall was born on September 22nd, 1946, and now resides at 1935 North King Road in Marion, Indiana. I'm Susie Coulter, the interviewer. Mr. Marshall is a teacher here at Marion High School. Mr. Marshall, for the recording, could you please state what war and branch you served in?
I served in the United States Army.
What was your rank?
I was ranked when I left was Specialist 4.
Where did you serve?
Where did I serve?
Yeah.
Different parts of the United States and then also overseas in Vietnam.
Were you drafted or did you enlist?
No, I was drafted.
What made you want to join the Army?
No, I didn't. I was drafted.
Where were you living at the time?
I was living at home with my parents.
How old were you when you joined?
When I was drafted, I was 19.
Were you drafted into the Army or did you choose?
No, I was drafted into the Army.
Do you recall your first days of service?
Yep. It was hectic. Very hectic.
What did it feel like?
Leaving home, I didn't. I left my parents, my friends, and my girlfriend at the time, and going into an environment I've never experienced before.
What were you doing before you enlisted?
I was just came home from college. I had auto accident, which limited me to go to college, so I came home to pick up some money and get back in college, and next thing I know, I was drafted.
Tell me about your boot camp / training experiences.
My boot camp was at Fort Benning, Georgia. We had a little Puerto Rican drill sergeant, very, very, very strict and disciplined. That's one of the key things that I learned out there, being disciplined, because he knew that a lot of us was going to Vietnam, and you have to be disciplined in a combat zone. And some of my experiences was running. He had us run a lot early in the mornings. He had us, every time you turn around, it was running, run, run, run. And that was just basically to get us in shape, you know. And as far as experience, we had a grenade throw. Those that did make it through the tire, you had to put through 3 grenades through a tire, and whoever did then got to call home. You know, so I was one of the few that did call home that night.
How did you get through it?
I met some guys from Gas City, and we kind of stayed together as a group because we figured, hey, we're close-knit, Marion and Gas City, and we done a lot of things together, so we helped each other support, you know.
Which war did you serve in?
The Vietnam.
Where exactly did you go?
When I left country and went in country, I first went into Saigon. Our plane landed in Benoit, which is outside of Saigon. It's an Air Force base.
Can you spell those?
No. But then there, we was there for a couple days, and we left there, and they sent us up north towards the DMZ, which is, I was stationed in. Finally, my camp ended up in Quy Nhon, which was on the South China Sea, you know. So we was, our camp was probably about 50 feet to 100 feet away from the South China Sea on the ocean.
Do you remember arriving?
Yes, yeah, I remember arriving on the airplane and in country. At first it looked beautiful, you know, until you got in there. And Vietnam is a beautiful country if there wasn't a war at that time.
What were you assigned to do?
At the first time I got there, I advanced up with our company, which was primary was a transportation company, and we would travel different parts of Vietnam with the different units. And my first job was to, and why I don't know, but they put me on unloading a cargo ship, which had supplies coming in country to our GIs throughout the country itself.
Did you see combat?
That I'm not going to highlight. You know, I won't say much about it. I won't never. You know, I just kind of still keep it to myself. I'll put it this way. There's times that I was scared to death. I'll put it that way.
Were there many casualties?
At that time, I don't know if there was. It was on their part. It was the Viet Cong's casualties. It wasn't any on ours.
Did you suffer any injuries?
No. No, I was very fortunate.
What were some of your most memorable experiences?
Fun times or bad times, you know.
Either.
One of the things that I did, I picked up a orphan boy. He was about 10 years old. Because of my duties in Vietnam, I ended up driving a Jeep, and I started working for a major, and the major said we needed a Jeep, so buddies of mine in the motor pool, I went down there and I said, okay, I need a Jeep. Well, you just don't get a Jeep, you know, so they said, well, what we'll do is we'll put different numbers on it so nobody will know it's not stolen, but it's being borrowed, you know. So what I had to do basically end up taking care of them by they giving me the Jeep. I went to some of my buddies in the supply depot and I said, hey, I need some jungle fatigues, I need some socks, shirts and stuff like this, and jungle boots. So in turn to give the guys in the motor pool to keep them happy, so no, in turn I had to keep the supply guys happy. So I said, what do you guys need? They said, well, how about some cigarettes? So I let them use my ration cards, go buy some cigarettes and give them to them, you know. And then what happened, you know, it's basically what'd you do in the war, Daddy, you know. And I didn't steal Jeep, I borrowed it. And so anyway, one day along the road, there was this boy, and he was by himself, and I stopped and started talking to him, giving him some candy and giving him some Vietnamese money, and asked him where his parents was, and they had been killed in the village not too far from us, and all of his relatives, and so he was an orphan. So I took him in and kind of took him under my wing. I didn't take him into base camp because we're not allowed to have him in the base camp. So every morning I'd pick him up, I'd let him ride with me throughout the day, and then return, drop him back off. In the meantime, I'd give him money or candy or food or something, you know. And so I felt like I was a missionary in that part of helping this kid, you know. So anyway, the kid, you know, his name, I give him the name. His name was Day, D-A-Y. I called him that. I give him some clothing and so forth. And he was, you know, this day I have no idea where he's at, you know. Maybe one of these days we'll connect together, you know. But I felt like God had led me at that time, and I didn't know it, to be a missionary to take care of this kid, you know. And who knows, he may be here in the States.
Were you awarded any medals or citations?
When I came back, yeah, we had received campaign medals, the TEP medals, for the years that I was over there. I was over 1966 and 1967. And when I got back stateside at Fort Gordon, Georgia, they did tell me I received a bronze medal, but I've never seen it. My orders, a lot of our orders got lost between Vietnam and here, and so they never come through with it. And where the records are now, in Kansas City, I think, Missouri, and that don't show that. You know, a lot of my medical records, I thought I had malaria when I was over there because I was running a very high temperature. My throat, my ears was hurting very badly, and you know, but like I say, a lot of that stuff I'll never see. You know,
Why were you given these medals?
probably because of the job that I was doing at the time of when I was driving documents throughout the region of Vietnam, and we had, you know, there's a lot of things we did, and I don't know, that's why I was told, you know, and I have no idea where it would be coming from.
How did how did you stay in touch with your family?
Just only by letters. I tried one time calling through shortwave, and it didn't. All I could hear was a hello, and then the weather had to be just right, and it was disconnected. And I waited in line for an hour to be able to talk, and I couldn't get through, and so, you know, that's the only two ways that we communicated.
Could you stay in touch with your girlfriend at the time?
Oh yeah, I wrote her letters.
How did you deal with being away from your friends and family?
You know, I just kind of said, God, you know, I just pray that, and I wasn't at the time, I wasn't a Christian, but I kept saying, God, you know, I'd love to be back home, you know, help me through this, and, you know, I put a lot of faith in Him and the support of my fellow buddies to do that.
What did they think about you being drafted into the Army?
Who's they?
Your friends and family?
Well, at the time, a lot of guys were being drafted, and my father being a vet, you know, he kind of told me, you know, do what you got to do, and, you know, we just hope, pray that you come back alive, you know. They didn't want to see me leave either, you know, but I'm over there for our country and defending the country, you know, so.
What was the food like in Vietnam?
We had some rations, which was not very pleasant to eat. But I mean, if that's all you had to eat, that's all you had to eat. And now and then we'd get some hot meals, you know, which was very, very nice, you know. But it wasn't all that great food, you know, not compared to back stateside.
Did you have plenty of supplies?
Far as
Just were you able to take things from home?
no, basically you took the bare minimum what you could take, because you had already had your duffel bag packed and it was being already shipped across, you know, so you met up with it when you got to your unit. So no, if supplies, they had a commissary there which you could go and buy, you know, shaving cream and razor blades and deodorant and soap and stuff like that, you know.
Did you feel any pressure or stress?
Stress to a certain point that you just learn to cope with it, you know, and you just learn that as far as maturity-wise, you learn to grow up about 2 years, you know, than your normal age, because you were still a young kid, and it was, you know, you're drafted and bang, you're in a combat zone, you know.
Was there something special you did for good luck?
For what?
For good luck?
No, I don't believe in luck, so.
What'd you do for entertainment?
Be honest with you, I drank. Most of the guys over there drank, you know, and it was to help take away some of the stress, plus take and relieve, just relieve the pressure that you were under all the time. And, you know, smoking I call it wacky weed, you know, no, we had it over there, but I didn't do it because I've seen too many guys get hurt very badly.
Do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual event?
Funny?
Yeah.
Yeah, um, when we took a lot of our showers, or so-called baths, was in the South China Sea, because we didn't have our unit set up yet to take showers, and then finally we did. But 3 or 4 of us went out into the ocean and took our air mattress, what we slept on, and started floating around on the ocean, you know. And we got out quite a ways, and then we just drifted back in. And anyway, we just fell, well, I fell asleep, and somebody else fell asleep. And next thing I knew, one of the guys hollering, he had fell off his mattress, and he came up, he was all black. And then he went like that on his face, he rubbed his face, and it was oil, you know, and we was trying to figure out where he would get the oil from. Well, the 7th Fleet ship, the Navy ships were out in the ocean there, and they apparently must have been discharging some oil, and it floated in toward the shore. So we was all laughing at him, and then next thing I know, we was all trying to keep on our mattress and try to get in the shore, and he goes and he starts flipping us, you know, and here we all come up there looking like, you know, we're just black, covered with the oil. And then, are you still there? Okay. Then, anyway, we had to wash ourselves down with gasoline, which was not very good, you know. So, anyway, it was one of the funny experiences.
Would you guys pull pranks on each other?
Yeah, you do that just to keep things active and keep going, you know, keep your spirits up, you know.
What kind of pranks would you pull?
Oh, you know, putting shaving cream in your boots, you know, or make your pants turn inside out, or, you know, or put, you know, spiders or something like that, you know, that would come up there and get in your sleeping bag, you know. That draws back to one of the other things that we talked about funny. I was laying on the beach one day and just resting, and all of a sudden I woke up, and a couple of the other guys were beside me, and I had jumping spiders all over me. I mean, they would just jump, but they never bit me, you know, and it was funny, and these guys just couldn't believe it. I mean, they was up there jumping around and so forth, and after I've seen them on me, after I woke up, because I was trying to get some suntan, you know, it was suntanning, and is what we call relaxation. And so anyway, that was another funny thing that happened there.
Do you have any photographs?
Yes, I do. I've got photographs of the of Vietnam, the people, the culture, the things that they do over there, the land itself, and then the kid that I had helped over there.
What did you think of the other officers and fellow soldiers?
Our officers was guys that were drafted, our lieutenants, and they were drafted into the military through ROTC. Our commanding officer, the commanding officer we always called the old man, you know, because he was the man in charge. He was cool, you know.
Was there a certain officer that helped you get through?
There was one second lieutenant, and Lieutenant Judd was his name, and he helped us. I mean, our platoon or squad. He helped us because he was in charge of us, you know.
Did you keep a personal diary?
No, I didn't keep any diary while I was over there.
Do you recall the day your service ended?
Yes, I did. The service, see, you served 2 years of military time, active duty, and then 4 years of inactive duty. Yeah, it was a great day, you know, to get out, you know. Because at that time, the Pueblo incident was happening, and they had talked about extending the military guys instead of letting them out. So that helped us, or helped me, to get out when they didn't do anything with the Pueblo.
What was that?
That was an incident that they had, something about the ships, you know.
Where were you at when your service ended?
I was in Fort Gordon, Georgia. That's where my tour of duty stopped, because I had like 90 days when I came back to stateside from Vietnam, and they put me down in Fort Gordon, Georgia, driving for some generals, that came out of Washington, D.C. I was a driver, had it made then. In fact, one of the generals wanted me to re-enlist to come back stay in the military and then go with him up to Washington, D.C. and work out of D.C. And I didn't know, all I wanted to do was get back home, At the time, before I went to Vietnam, I was married. About probably a month before, I spent about a week with my wife, and then next thing I was over in Vietnam. Yeah.
What did you do in the days and weeks afterward?
After I had come back home, I shied away from people. I didn't want to be around people. People, I noticed a lot of it. When we came back, you go at the airport and so forth, people knew you was a Vietnam vet. They didn't like you. They call you baby killers and kind of disgrade you. We came back. We didn't get no ticket parade. We felt disgraded, and a lot of guys will still feel that today. We went over there and for nothing, but when I got back, I think I went to work at that time. But when I first got back, my wife, I told her some words not to say, not around me, and if so, then I can't guarantee what would happen, And one night we were just laying in bed, and she was brushing her hair, and she dropped her hairbrush on the floor, and it was a hardwood floor at the time, and I just come up out of bed, and I was ready to deck her, So, but anyway, I caught myself where I was at, and it was hard a little bit to readjust to civilian life from being over there.
If you had to do it again, would you?
Yes, but I think it would be in a little bit different circumstances than what the war was like in Vietnam.
How would you describe your experience in the Army?
To what?
Would you say it was a good experience?
It made me mature, like say 2 years. Plus, it also made me have a more compassionate heart for people over there. Nobody likes to kill anybody, and I love to help over there as much as I could, and the kids I did, and some of the maybe 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, even some of them who was in school, I just felt like, on the good side, that was it. But there was the bad side too, the people. When I say bad side, I'm talking about the Viet Cong,
Did you go straight to work, or did you go back to school?
No, I went straight to work. I didn't even think about going back to college right then.
Where did you work?
When I came back, I started building homes with a company, and then I was there for a couple years, and then I went on the fire department. I had my choice, either going on the police department or fire department, and my wife didn't want me to get shot at, so she says, "Why don't you just go on the fire department?"
Did you make a lot of close friendships while in the service?
Yes, yeah, I did. I hung around with some guys, and a lot of them was from New York. This day, I have no idea where they're at. I had some guys from Illinois. I know where they're at in Oklahoma, and some of them, I've just lost contact with, and then there's the ones in Gas City that I keep in contact quite often with them, and there's like one in Wabash, but most of them was in Gas City or Fairmount.
So you still talk to some of them?
Oh yeah. We're now and then we'll see each other and give each other a hug and talk, see how things are going. In fact, we're getting ready to have a reunion just among us guys. It's local here.
Did you join any veterans organizations?
No, I didn't join anything until just here a few years ago. I joined the American Legion, but then and the Veterans of Foreign War. But then I stopped that. I no longer belong to them.
What did you do as a career after the war?
A career.
Yeah.
I was on the Marion Fire Department, so I was on there for 26 and a half years, before I had to retire off on the disability.
Did your military experience influence your thinking about the war or just military in general?
In what respect?
Just did it change what you think about war?
No. When I grew up, I used to play, cowboy and Indians, and a lot of times we'd play Army men, but no.
How did your experiences in the service affect your life?
When I first came back, like I said, it was at the point where, I didn't want to be around people. I was shy, and, you just hate to be around people until finally, the more you was around people, you started working out things, and I just felt a lot of times uneasy. I didn't want to sit still. I wanted to be on the move all the time.
Is there anything else you'd like to add that hasn't been covered?
One thing I never knew, that when I left home, when I left home here on the plane to go to Chicago, to go to Oakland, California, and then to Vietnam, military, you try to be the macho man, and one thing is, you're leaving your family and your wife, and as I got on the plane, they're crying and so forth, and when the plane started taking off, then that's when I broke down, because I wouldn't let them see how I was. And then once I got in country, got situated, scared to death. I was scared to death every day, because you didn't know what day that could be your day to come home in a body bag. And I knew I was coming home, but one way or another, I was either coming in a body bag, or I was coming home walking, or I was coming home alive. And so, talking about Vietnam, just in the last 5-6 years, I just started talking about it. Over the last 30 years, I kept everything inside, and some stuff I still do, but I used to have the ghost in my closets, from Vietnam, and now some of them ghosts are out, and it's making me feel a lot better about myself, and by sharing with the kids here in the classroom. But before, I wouldn't talk about it. The only time that I would talk about it would be with another military guy, Vietnam guy, and not to anybody. He just kept it in. And I used to have my wife tell me that I've had dreams about it, because she'd have to sometimes shake me, or she would kick me instead of being close to me because she didn't know what my reaction was, you know. And I did have one time, I did at Christmas time, I did have a backlash of it with the little boy, and it took me, I mean, I just started crying, and I usually don't cry like that, and I kept crying. I cried probably a good 6 hours or better, you know, and just something that triggered it was on TV was Vietnam, and you know, so anyway, that came to a pass, and I know God has helped me to deal with a lot of it, and you know, He took away a lot of the pressures and stress off of me, which allowed me to talk about it now as a Christian. Before, I would still have it bogged down inside of me, but I just you know, gotta give Him the praise because he's the one that helped me to deal with all this. I've had guys that you know, I'd see, my buddies and so forth, and we'd talk about certain things because they knew what I was talking about, and I knew what they was talking about, you know. And but we feel, the veterans, I know, speaking my own personal view, and some of the guys I've talked to, that we feel neglected the Vietnam War. It was a war that we went over and fought for nothing. You know, lost a lot of our guys. I lost a lot of buddies. You know, a lot of friends. And their names on the wall. And somebody asked me the other day, said, "Mr. Marshall, would you go to the wall? Have you been to the wall?" And I said, "No. Right now, I probably couldn't deal with that right now. Right now, you know, maybe someday I'll go out there. You know, and I support our veterans. You know, and the Desert Storm and this Iraq. You know, I support them 100%. I support what President Bush is doing. You know, and President Bush, being a military person, he knows a lot, probably, what the guys are going through. But you know, I just have to say that I'm proud to be American, and I'm proud to serve my country in the capacity that I did, even though I was scared to death and didn't want to do it. But I did it, and I have nothing to regret. You know, I can hold my head up high. You know, even though what they called us and what was did, I still can hold my head up high and say, I did serve my country.
Well, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And that's the end.